The best mod that you could possibly put on your 2024 Tacoma is portals, 74 weld portals specifically. I'm gonna get into why, but let's talk about what portals are first. I'm also gonna jump into 74 weld specifically, the pros of going with portals, cons, the cost, other considerations you need to make, and why I truly believe that portals are the best mod you can put on any of these new gen Toyotas. Let's talk about 74 weld specifically because we're gonna focus in on them as a portal manufacturer. They make their portals 100% in the USA. I have experience with other portals on Toyotas, and I can tell you they're in a league of their own. They're 100% manufactured in the US, and there's a huge difference. There aren't better portals on the market, period. They're a little bit more expensive than some on the market. Save yourself the headache. Buy once, cry once, and go with 74 weld. All right, so if you don't know what portals are, we're obviously off-roading now. We were at the trailhead when we started this video, but if you don't know what portals are, they're gearboxes that go on the hub on all four corners, and essentially your axle shafts go into the top of the gearbox. On these, there are 4 gears inside, and then your hub connects to the bottom of the gearbox. And what that does is it gives you a gear reduction, in this case 22%, and it gives you added ground clearance without affecting your suspension geometry. So in this case, it's about 3.5 inches of lift coming from just the portal boxes themselves. So what are the pros of portals? Right there, the gear reduction. Gear reduction is huge for running larger tires and if you add weight to your truck. And also, it's especially important on Toyotas because they're notoriously underpowered vehicles. So having a gear reduction is going to give you more low-end torque. That is massive. Ground clearance for off-roading is also extremely important because you don't want to hit your undercarriage and damage components under your vehicle. So having additional ground clearance, like right now going over these boulders, just northwest of Boulder here where we're wheeling today, it's really important to have ground clearance. Now, another thing that it's going to do is give you lift without affecting your suspension geometry. So your tie rods, your CVs, your shocks themselves are going to be much happier because they can be in more of an OEM spec location. The geometry remains the same because you're getting your lift from the boxes themselves. Now, one thing that I want to mention on a gear reduction that's huge is reduced stress and strain on your drivetrain components. Now, we do a lot of re-gears at the shop, but when we do a re-gear, we're changing the gears inside of your differentials. That's not the end of your driveline. The end of your driveline is on your hubs. So having that gear reduction on your hubs is beautiful because running a 37-inch or a 40-inch tire is going to feel stock to the rest of your drivetrain. So you are making everything stronger and hold up to heavier, larger tires. And it's just one of the most important things you can do. There's a reason why re-gears are so prevalent. We're doing a re-gear every day at the shop. Another huge thing that's also related to your suspension geometry is the fact that you're getting lift from the portal boxes themselves, so you can clear bigger things without adding preload to your shocks. So yeah, you can run aftermarket shocks, but what's cool is you don't have to add any preload and reduce your down travel in order to get more height. And also having travel is massively important. So this truck right here is on portals with stock suspension. There's obviously no preload put on it. It's getting all of the stock travel. I would obviously recommend getting aftermarket suspension where you have more wheel travel, but it's just a massive benefit to have all the down travel, have a nice plush ride, and not max out the preload on your coils. So portals aren't all sunshine and rainbows, as you might imagine. There are some cons. Let's talk about them. Number one, the most obvious, is the cost. So 74 weld portals for 24 Tacoma and really pretty much all of the Toyotas. If you're going with single shear steering, you're spending $20,000 on parts. You have tax on top of that. And then you also are probably going to buy some other things, which we'll talk about next. Now, plan on spending somewhere around $35,000 realistically if you are going to run portals.
Check your couch.
Yep. all the change you got, make sure to gather it together and plan on spending upwards of $30,000 to $35,000 if you're going to run portals. Now, the other thing is that you have more maintenance. 74 Weld recommends changing the oil every 3,000 miles on all four corners. So I would recommend changing the oil yourself and learning how to do it. It's really easy. They don't take a lot of oil, but these are high performance parts. A race truck gets worked on every single time it races non-stop. It's pretty much a non-stop thing. So as you step into higher performance pieces, it just equals more maintenance. Another big one that I've experienced with other brands, I'm not going to mention who they are, but I don't want to drag anyone's name through the mud, just because if you are trying to improve Toyota off-road capability and innovate with parts, I'm not going to hate on you at all, but I'll just tell you, I've experienced it with other companies. Portals will leak.
Something with the leaks, folks. That southern border, they're coming in, they're eating your pets, they're eating your portals. But 74 wheel, they're made in America, and they're gonna make America and portals great again, folks. They're gonna make them great.
There's not a drop on here. I've got almost 2,000 miles on this. We drove to Telluride and Ouray in this, going 80 on the highway. They don't have a drop of oil anywhere. These are designed perfectly, but other companies I cannot say that about. It's crazy how much my other portals have leaked on road trips. And it's really annoying because then you're talking about really expensive parts inside to get them replaced. Other considerations you need to make when buying portals, specifically for these new gens. I've got so much portal content on here. If you want to talk about like Tacomas, 4Runners, find the other video, but specifically as it relates to this 2024 Tacoma and all the new gens. So 74 Weld now has new Sequoias, new Tundras, even the new 4Runner, which doesn't drop until next year in 2025. Portals are for sale, ready to go. So let's talk about the considerations you need to make. The number one consideration is going to be your wheels. So wheel offset matters a lot. Even if you don't have portals, it really does matter. And when you have portals, it matters even more. So your scrub radius when you're turning is different because portals add over 3 inches of width on each side. So your scrub radius on turning is altered. You'd like to minimize that as much as possible by going with a highly positive offset wheel. What's that mean? It's a skinnier track width based on where the center of your wheel mounts. The more negative you are, the wider it is, which means that that wheel is mounted closer to the inner lip. And the more positive you are, the less width you have. And on these specific method race wheels, these are fully forged bead grips and a positive 45 offset. These were made specifically with portals in mind. Because they're fully forged and because they are bead grips, you're paying a premium. These are going to be $950 each, and it's worth every penny. These are the best wheels you could pair up with 74 Weld portals. They were made in conjunction with 74 Weld engineers, and these are the ones to get. I wouldn't recommend going any wider than a positive 18 offset with portals. And the other reason being is that you want those portal boxes protected, and the more positive the offset is, the more they're buried inside of the wheel itself and not exposed to getting bashed on rocks. So those are the major considerations. The other thing you're going to have to consider is trimming. You will absolutely have to trim your fenders. This truck actually has wide fenders. These are pro style fenders from, believe it or not, Rough Country. I don't like Rough Country's products. It's Chinese stuff.
China.
But these fenders are like $400 delivered, and they look like the pro fenders. And then Quinn at 74 Weld hacked them up, and it definitely needs more trimming. The front side of the rear fender is going to have to get trimmed out. It's just part of the deal. If you don't feel comfortable with an air saw and trimming up your truck yourself, we'll do it for you. It does, it takes us some time because we tape it off, we do it right, make it look good. The other big one is going to be your stopping power. So even though this is now disc brakes all around for the first time in the new gen Tacomas, once you put 37s on these trucks, they don't stop like they used to. It's just, there's brake fade. That's going to happen. So Power Brake doesn't have this available yet, but as soon as they have big brake kits available for the new gen Tacomas, it's going to be a must. If you're running 37s, you need power brakes. You're gonna have to get the 6 pistons up front. The rear should be fine, but so one thing with this truck that I really just am not confident in is the brakes. There is definite brake fade. When I'm on the highway and I have to lock them up, I want to be certain that it's gonna actually get locked up and I'm gonna stop. So power brake is the fix there for sure.
Dwight, what would you say your favorite thing is about running portals?
Oh man, if I had to choose one thing about being on portals, it's ground clearance. So the ability to look at an obstacle that looks like it's impossible to get over, and then you walk right up it feels pretty sweet. The other thing, which we haven't even touched on the pros, I didn't even mention this before, but it just looks so good. Your track width is wide. You can run 37s. It's just proper. It's like they should have come like this from the factory. They look incredible. So this truck is a true head turner. Any truck on portals is bound to be just the best looking thing on the road too. But the functionality is first. And usually when you build for function first, the byproduct of that is that your truck looks better too. All right, and that all leads us to my number one reason for making this video in the first place. Why is this the best mod you can make on a 2024 Tacoma? That's simple. These trucks are 4-cylinder turbos. That means there's turbo lag and there's not a lot of power on the low end. Once you put portals on a new gen Toyota, especially the 4-cylinder turbos, the turbo lag is no longer an issue because of the additional torque you're getting on the low end. This thing legitimately drives more like a sports car than my other one just because it has torque. If you do the math on the gear reduction, you're at a 22% gear reduction at the wheel, which means this drivetrain would feel stock with 40s on it. I'd rather have a little bit more torque and be slightly deeper in my gears and run a 37, which is exactly this setup. And it solves turbo lag completely, and it feels amazing, especially off-roading, but it gives you the daily driving characteristics of a much better vehicle that was more thought out. Now, if you pair that up with what's coming, which is tuning these trucks, it's gonna be next level. Being able to tune turbocharged trucks is going to be game changing. So once we can actually get in and do tunes on these, you're gonna have a lot more power, and we can do a lot about the turbo lag, but you're never gonna be upset about having more low end torque. That's why this is the best mod that you can install on a 2024 Tacoma. So to wrap all this up, guys, there's a lot of pros. There's very few cons. The pros largely outweigh the cons. If you have it in your budget to get 74 weld portals, you absolutely should, especially if you're on a new gen Toyota. But no matter what Toyota you're driving, we can set you up with 74 weld portals and literally any mod you can think of here at Mountain Yotas. Give us a call, reach out on Instagram. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy our content. I think we have like 50 videos, so go check out some other stuff. And thanks again. Hope you have a great day.
74 weld, folks. Mountain Yotas teaming up, the real deal, folks. Get in, get input on your beautiful truck, and get out and vote for me, because if I don't win portals, they're gonna be gone. They're gone, folks. You can't get them.